the illustration that you used to comment about credit using the net and the fish was the same by chance that Irving Schiff used in his book, How an Economy Grows and Why It Doesn't. And most of us should know that he's in jail because he tried to put in practice what he believes. And we all here understand that we have great ideas, but we are trying to convince someone that has the gun. How and what is your point of view regarding the transition from this kind of thing that we are living now to a real free world?
With respect to Schiff, all I know is Schiff is, of course, not in jail because he proposed these sorts of things. He is in jail because he refused to pay taxes and said it is taxes are unconstitutional. He might be right on this. I think he was a fool to believe that if he goes to American courts, that the courts will find that he is right. That leads me back to what I said in my talk yesterday. I mean, if you have an institution that sits in judgment on itself in cases of conflicts that they have with other people, you can predict what the result will be. Of course, they will find I'm right, I'm allowed to collect taxes, and you, Mr. Schiff, whether you are right on paper is completely irrelevant. You will always lose. As far as the question is concerned, what should we do? I think there are hopeful signs. The first time in many, many years, central banks are under some sort of attack. This entire Ron Paul movement that you have in the United States, criticizing the Fed and finding lots of people who listen to this type of argument is very hopeful. Until recently, very recently, central banks were, of course, considered to be absolutely taboo institutions. The maestro Greenspan was considered to be one of the wisest and greatest men walking this earth. In the meantime, there are many, many people, hundreds of thousands of people who realize that the guy is just a crook with a nice suit on. So this is, of course, a great advance that we have made in a relatively short period of time. When I was still active teaching at the university, I always told my students there are two branches of government that are the most important ones. One is that the tax collectors; those are the ones that come with leather jackets and break your kneecaps, and then there are the people in pinstriped suits like Greenspan, who are, of course, even far more important and far more dangerous. They do not look as dangerous as the people with leather jackets and with baseball bats to break your kneecaps, but they are the real crooks. And in the meantime, as I said, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people in the world who realize that that's what they are.
Well, we've got here a very philosophical question. You have mentioned that the ethics derives from a true axiom a priori. Is it possible also derives that could it be punishments in the case or for the case that the non-compliance of these true ethics?
Yeah, what the ethics first does is just simply explain what justifiable rules there are. I think is another step then to argue what would be the appropriate punishment for rule breakers. Less work has been done on this. I think the basic principle there seems to be that the victim of crimes is a person who should be compensated, and there should be an upper limit to what a victim can possibly demand of a perpetrator. But the victim itself can, of course, also agree to a lesser punishment or to some different forms of punishment below the threshold of proportionality of the crime and the punishment. But as I said, less work has been done on punishment theory than on the theory of what are the positive rules that can be justified.
Mais alguma pergunta? Não? Bom, então mais do que...
Here, please.
Surgiu ali.
Professor Hoppe, I would like to know if the current debasement of currencies in many countries of the world is inevitable offspring or outcome of democracies or not? Is it something that is bound to happen when you have a democracy as a phenomenon, or can it be avoided somehow?
Yeah. I don't think it can be deduced from this, but what I try to show in my book on democracy is democracy is a system that leads people to become ever more short-sighted, ever more present-oriented instead of planning ahead into the future. What you can see, for instance, is that the amount of debt accumulated in the present to allow people to enjoy certain present benefits and discount, so to speak, what the long-run consequences will be in the future of accumulating large amounts of debt. That is certainly something that is not deducible, but somehow predictable as a plausible development from the institutions of democracy. Democracy can also be, is also an institution that has certainly promoted the idea of getting rid of a commodity money standard which does not allow as much inflationing in the present as a paper money does. So democracy has certainly sped up the process of giving up commodity money and replacing it with a fiat money, because a fiat money allows living it up in the present at the expense of problems arising in the future to a larger extent than it was possible under a gold standard or silver standard or something like this. So yes, democracy creates a mentality that makes it easier to adopt all of these institutions, makes it easier to engage in inflation, makes it easier for people to put up with paper money, makes it easier for government to go ever deeper into debt.
Ok, uma última pergunta.
Hi. Given the level of leverage we have today in the system, only trying to play the devil's advocate here, wouldn't it be too painful to let the market adjust itself, considering the risk during this adjustment of a lot of pain going on and a more populist solution for the ignorant people who don't understand what's going on really?
I'm not quite sure if I understand what you are driving at.
If Hitler or Mussolini would be a true alternative, a true option for people who don't understand what's going on and are feeling the
Oh,
pain,
okay.
instead of Obama, who is a socialist, terrible one, but even so, not that.
We will eventually get in the Western welfare states will come to a point where these welfare states will become unsustainable in the same way as communism was unsustainable. So a bankruptcy must occur. It is somehow visible. They cannot pay all the obligations that they have towards pensioners and so forth, given the fact that the number of young people declines continuously, the life expectancy rises. So it is on the horizon that there must be a collapse coming. What will come out of this collapse is very difficult to say. A likely outcome is, of course, some sort of dictatorships arising in this situation. It seems to be important to me that there are also some sort of alternative visions that they are promoted. And the alternative vision that I would like to promote is that we need a world composed of a large number of very small political units, a la Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Singapore, Hong Kong, and so forth. And once the crisis will break out, it is my hope that people will come to the realization, look, we Bavarians have supported whatever people in Sicily. Some people in rich provinces have for many decades supported people who have conducted miserable policies in other places of the world. And now we are broke and we simply stop this. We say, money earned in Bavaria stays in Bavaria. Money earned in Liechtenstein stays in Liechtenstein. Germany will no longer bail out Spain and Greece and Portugal and so forth. We want to keep our wealth for ourselves. We engage in free trade, but we do no longer want a redistribution of wealth and income from countries that conduct relatively sober, decent economic policies to chaotically run places. So when the crisis comes, one scenario is we get these Hitler, Mussolini types or whatever rising to power. That is a big danger that people simply scream for dictators that solves the problem. The alternative vision is then I hope the tendency that has been underway for a long, long time towards political centralization will come to a halt and will reverse, and a process of decentralization takes place. And political decentralization, just as in the case of the monetary subject that we already talked about, forces these small individual political units, of course, to be comparatively nicer and wiser in their policy, because people will be able to vote with their feet against policies. Again, the European Union is precisely the wrong development that takes place. That has nothing to do with free trade whatsoever. The entire purpose of the European Union is to eliminate competition between the various European countries, to harmonize the tax and regulation structure, to take away the motives of businessmen to just leave one country and go to the other country, because every country is the same mess as every other one. This is what the European Union is aimed at, and again, mainly directed against German economic power.
Well, our last words must be now. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and please consider coming back in the next seminar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.